So I don't expect anyone to be here right now, but this is more of a sort of a remembrance of this house here, which is being sold. It was my father's house and stepmother as well. And there were some good memories here. And this is also a spiritual center, and it's located on a particular geometric uh, area, which, as some wanderers will come to find out, they'll choose these locations. This is something that I haven't heard Mr. Wilcock talk about. This is also the tribute month for Mr. Wilcock. I don't even know what this is. I don't do live videos. I just figured I would catalog. Okay, there's some kind of notification. Yeah, catalog. Record the spiritual space in the last um, hours. I mean, it'll be available probably for a month, but I was thinking about doing this. There's still some furniture here, and there's no agenda here. This idea that I have, it's not an idea, it's a spiritual approach where there's no profit here. I do free medium work, free spiritual advice. There's no promotion of this. So if you've stumbled across this strange man wearing these pink sunglasses, are actually Ray-Ban, um, it's you're supposed to be here. I mean, there's no tags. I purposefully did not put any tags on this. And there'll be meditation going on, no words. And I think a little misunderstanding people have is a meditation, a lot of times, is more effective if you just jump into the consciousness space. And when you have a mystery teacher who is unwound their spirit organ, unwound their third eye, you can jump in to a particular spiritual stream. This doesn't require words, it requires clearing your mind waves. And Rudolf Steiner would talk about saying particular words to sort of enter into a spiritual space. And this spiritual archetype that's opening up, I mean, there's more opening up now because of the problem of evil, and you can jump into it. And you say, it works me. It thinks me. And it weaves me. And when I say it weaves me, a lot of times I add into the fabric of the cosmos, because you're admitting that you're a part of the logos, and it's beautiful. You're an extension of the original tone and the original thought, and you enter into this space. It's a spiritual space by saying those three words, and you can tap in a particular way, anywhere, at any point, instantaneously, non-locally. And when you use a series of words like that, you can help navigate through those mind waves that I talk about, how you want to clear your mind waves and make sure you're propagating with the proper spiritual stream, which is associated with service to others, where people who are engaged in service to others and have dedicated their life to a particular calibration of their consciousness, you work in a spiritual area. And a lot of times you live in variations of those areas, and you don't even find out until you're an adult. Hence, part of that wanderer material, and why Wilcox was so important for me, because he got that in motion, And these people maintain that particular consciousness. And these sites will work as, their power centers, where when they're linked up and working appropriately, you have the general public thinking twice about doing something that would be related to materialism, the propagation of negative energy service to self, and they'll start seeing the beauty of love and compassion in an easier, to the point where there would be, there'd be large chunks of the globe just having this eliminated by these centers being worked. But what I'm trying to say is you can jump into the particular spiritual archetype that certain people have right now that they're working with during a meditation. So there doesn't need to be words or guidance. Not everybody's a good guided meditator like Mr. Wilcock. And I keep bringing him up because this is the month tribute. It's not quite the 20th yet. So without words, jumping into the space, you can just be there and maybe use something basic like a meditation bowl here. And this is also about different forms of loss and impermanence, because this house is just like losing a person. And it's more so that backyard, because extreme supernatural phenomenon have happened back there, including what I call extreme holographic mode, where you completely lose time. Like if time is removed, time is a substance, and you go into this other dimension for a while. It's beyond words. But back there, that actually happened one time, and it's because it's lined up properly. And to go into that particular mode, you almost have to be on some kind of ley line or something. So this is important to see that in the background there, even though it's kind of hard to see. This camera is just a computer camera. I have this Psionics, which I could have hooked up, which is decent. I don't have the cable. And I just made a trip home too to get the pestle, because I forgot the pestle and I forgot the cable. So you know what? We're going to use this camera, suede pestle, to make the sound bowl work. I was looking around for some things I could use as an alternative, and I just couldn't come up with it. I was trying to turn a lot of different things on the pestle. Went back, got the pestle. This one's good because it has a hole in it. For some reason, these larger ones that have holes in them, there's a hollowness to them. They seem to work better for the sound bowls, because I have like a bunch of different pestles. So this space here is a different type of loss, that losing a property, that you grew up in. It's all a lesson of impermanence. Nothing lasts. But, you can combine it with a loss of a person here. In this case, it'd be Dave Wilcock. And also lament the space here, which could also be connected with other people who've had to leave a property. Maybe they've had to move for some reason. Here, this is a natural move. It's not like anything, there's nothing bad attached to it. It's just my dad's moving, got married. So, and they're not far away. It's just, and also this is on a hill, and there's steps that are steep. There's a lot of things that as you age, I can see why he would be moving. But this is a lesser sacred site, like what Freddie Silva talks about. I highly recommend. He talks about the different variations of portals and how you can develop an Aborigine-like sense where you can sense these areas. And and so, you can walk around and detect them. And then, of course, you can pull out a map and line up geometrically the points of locations to see if you're on one of these lines. And that's not hard to find that information. But I should probably put this back on, man. That lighting's kind of bad. Whoa, man. I don't know about that. Let's keep those on. So this is about loss, and whether it's a property or a person, you can jump into the space, into the spiritual space, which is active, and we can say this series of words that I like, that Rudolf Steiner used. We can jump into that space and sit and do a little meditation here. And I'll keep the sunglasses on because I have a colored light down there that's kind of bright. And we'll begin to loosen up here. Dr. Yang says you can always do elements of Tai Chi. It's important to move all the areas around, get that air flowing. And this might look kind of dumb, but you want to just move the hands around, get the spine going back. Any old way, and just make sure you turn the hands, get the spine, if you can, sort of loosen up a little bit. Kind of start to grab the chi, kind of grab some of that prana that we're going to use in this space. Kind of loosen up a little bit. I kind of have a curvature in my spine, so I often have to remind myself to straighten that out during the meditation. I'm not sitting, I'm actually sitting on a stool here, so my feet are kind of dropped down. I went on a jog today. I'm kind of sitting in a chair rather than on the ground, but I'm still in a sort of a half lotus sitting position. So we enter into this spiritual space and we say and acknowledge that it thinks me, it works me, and it weaves me into the fabric of the cosmos. When we meditate here, we are listening for the small sounds to help clear our mind waves. Outside, I can hear the birds. There is some deer walking by, wind. We're going to narrow down these sounds. I'm going to narrow them down until I'm just hearing a correspondence of the birds. And we'll begin to hear the second D world, and it will come to life. And we can merge with those sounds. As I narrow down the sounds to where you just hear the birds, I begin to hear other birds and hear a world of correspondence that I was not aware of until I began to clear out the debris from my mind waves. Breathe in. The healing energy of the property. And breathe out any negative things that happened in the day without actually thinking about them. I clear my mind, but choose to think about one thing that's either going to happen later or has happened in the day. And then after that positive thing, I clear my mind and just take in the energy of this connection, this spiritual connection that's linked up with others that have worked hard to maintain it, and sacred sites across the globe. I choose to think about how later Dr. Raymond Moody will be doing a Zoom chat, and I will be attending this. That will be amazing. People who have had near-death experiences have a special, well, we're all the same, but they have a particular calling that they can share their experience with others about a link towards intelligent infinity, where our guides are, where healing can be obtained, information can be obtained, and the proof of the soul, evidence that our loved ones who have passed have simply transitioned to another dimension. And when the problem of evil is harnessed, anybody will be able to see this. At 8 o'clock, Dr. Raymond Moody will be doing a presentation and then taking questions I will meditate on what the question is that I will ask him, if I choose to ask him a question. I have no idea what that sounds like on speakers that are lo-fi, like the ones that are built into my computer. I wanted to use this camera, but I forgot the connections. I hope that's not an ear-piercing sound. I can now hear the birds on this side as well as this side, because my consciousness is now allowing for me to perceive their world, because my mind waves have been leveled out from sitting here. The acoustics in the room make it sound like there's a bird right there on the wall, but it's just the effect bouncing. It's amazing. That's something that I'll miss. If you're tuning in now, I don't think anybody's watching. There is no theatrics here. This is a space that is connected to an ancient spiritual archetype, a space that has been well preserved and is now accessible to more people, as people that are waking up to their ascension duties. Sitting here, simply visualizing that you're connected non-locally and instantaneously with this particular site will allow you to access your spirit particles. And if you are polarizing, service to others, positive, you will see and feel this connection. In memory of Dave Wilcock, this is that non-local, instant, holographic connection. I have this singing bowl here, but the birds are presenting such an atmospheric sound. It's just amazing. I don't know if you can hear that. Okay, well, it's time to flip my laundry over and then we'll continue on here. I don't think there's anybody watching, but that's completely irrelevant. And showcasing the space, which is going to be sold soon. I mean, it's probably going to be accessible for a while, but there's still things to sit on. And this is a great spiritual space. This window you're seeing here, right here, and then there, a major supernatural phenomenon occurred right there on the ground, right within this visible range. It was not sky, it's right there. And it's amazing. I'll be back momentarily. There's the buzzer. Right there it happened. Right there. Talk about a portal area. This phenomenon happened in a violet ray of color. And that's what I was asking Dave about. And I put on the X page, put his response to that phenomenon right there. And the story is that when I was going through pre-initiation, I was getting a lot of supernatural phenomenon happens to you in 3D a lot, like just like Betty Shine talks about when you're being enhanced somehow. For her, it was more of like a direct medium, where she could just talk right to super or deceased people and stuff like that, and healing. You see a lot of extreme things to let you know what's going on. And once you know what's going on, you're supposed to back off and have discipline. That's it's part of mystery teachings, you know. And right back there, right before my stepmother passed away, I had this notion to go up the stairs over there. And I come over. I don't live here. I come over for I would come over for movie night, watch a movie, what have you. I do some laundry, and I live in an apartment complex. I don't like using that washer, so it was a tradition. And when she was sick, I was going through these things where I was becoming enhanced and realizing that I could connect with another dimension. And there's different variations of that. There's only so much I can talk about in a public space. But one of these variations is usually happens early on when you're waking up to your ascension ability, where you have something extreme happen to you. You can film it. A lot of times you feel tired, or you forget right before it and right after it, and there's no negative feelings. And part of what I asked for during my stepmother's illness, and when I found out I could work, I was working in a hotspot, is that I wanted to be able to connect with people that have passed on somehow, and help people that are dying. And this was given to me, And so going back to this night where this phenomenon happened, I had this feeling that I was actually familiar with. And I remember going to get them. Now, it was such a strong feeling. You got to understand, I was asking stepmom to come down the steps with spine cancer. She could barely walk. And I didn't even really remember because they had just gotten up the steps. This is a big, for me to even ask that, it would have to be something big. And then I don't remember for a couple minutes. And I remember walking around the corner, going outside, and instantaneously, we look over and there's a purple sphere. And this is what I was asking Dave about on my X page when he was answering this question about what this purple sphere was. It was a violet or violetish, purplish, whatever sphere. And I'd seen phenomenon like that a lot, and I'd never seen that color. To this day, I've never seen that color. And it was right there. It was like right there. It was kind of moving around over there. And when you're in this mode, you're going, are the neighbors seeing this? I think there were some people over there. But the answer is no. You're in a time extracted mode, and be careful what I talk about. But it happened right there. And she was able to see that. And then once people see something like that, funny things can happen, because when you look at something that's from another dimension, and if you're in a group where maybe someone's not totally of the same path you're on, where they might believe in that stuff, they don't want to think about it, funny stuff can happen. And if you've read Dr. Lynn Kaitai's book on the Phoenix Lights, she made her husband a funny character like this, where they would have all this stuff happening, and he'd be kind of not even necessarily the skeptic, but the guy is kind of like, oh man, I just don't, like, he wasn't really into it. And she kind of made him a character in her story. And this is kind of how one of my family members that witnessed this. It's not hard to figure out who this is, And it's something like they were in denial. They didn't really want to think about it. But after seeing the phenomenon close up, which was clearly for my stepmother, and there was other things that happened that were amazing as well. And he developed after effect type of situations that are similar to what like Russell Targ would talk about. I'm recalling a book called Limitless Mind, where he talks about remote viewing experiments, which I do not agree with, but because I think that's too prone to 5D interference. It's just not. I just don't really think I don't do that kind of stuff. But when you're doing that, when you're engaging in that type of work, you're still dealing with the light. You just don't it's not a surefire way to polarize positive and pull out positive spirit particles, so you can see and experience things that are not necessarily accurate. So I don't agree with remote viewing, but I do agree with a funny observation that reminded me of Russell Targ's book on remote viewing, was when targets would be getting something. They'd be seeing something, but it wasn't quite what it was. Okay. And it reminded me of what happened. I'm just going to say it. My dad, when he was trying to not really think about what he saw, like a purple sphere right there floating off the ground, and it's see-through and transparent. And it glides and stays, and if anybody gets scared, it goes away. I mean, unlike anything you see in the disclosure movement, that's not how peaceful entities are in your head, and they'll go away. They're not going to scare you. They're not going to spin around, pop, and DS doesn't want you to know that. So he was trying to almost kind of forget about what he saw. He just doesn't want to think about it, And this is what I wrote Dave about Angry Daddy. I would write Dave a long letter because Angry Daddy was actually based on his dad and him not really agreeing on certain things. So I wrote Dave a long letter about this. So here's what happened. A day or two after my dad saw that phenomenon right there, 6 feet off the ground, I was at my apartment, and I had decided to send him a text because he used to go to Costco or something on Sundays. I'm like, hey, can you pick me up a bag of vegetables or can you pick me up some tilapia, frozen tilapia? It's a quick, easy thing to make for lunch. And so like 20 minutes later, I get a knock on my door. It's my dad, and he has a bag of vegetables. I'm like, we got that text? And he was like, oh no, I didn't get a text. So let me back up. First of all, he's the type of person that never just shows up. Never shows up. Ever. He'll be like, oh, he'll call you and say, I'm at the stoplight on whatever road. And then he'll call you again saying, I'm pulling into the driveway. He never just shows up. Something told him to grab a bag of vegetables and then just race it to my apartment. So what happened was he was receiving a psychic-like after effect from seeing a close-up 3D phenomenon, and he didn't even look at his text, that said bring fish. So when I asked him, with the fish, he got some immediate jolt that didn't come from the text. It came from my mind and us having that particular link for seeing that phenomenon. So for people, if anybody's sitting here watching this, or if there's anybody that understands what I mean by linking up with a spiritual archetype, when you're actually sitting in a site like this that's semi-sacred on a geometric ley line, you're tapping into that kind of connection. These are all different variations of this stream of intelligent infinity. It's becoming more and more accessible for people that totally understand the Maya, like you see yourself and everything else. And when you start to see that, the more you see that, these truths will just start coming to you. So, yeah, so right there. I mean, that's why I've never done a live stream before. There's no promotion on this. I just think it's really important to capture this area permanently. Just a place of healing, out there. We sit here and we meditate on impermanence and loss, and that it's a lesson. And loss, it's one of the most natural things that happens to everyone. And we embrace it. And I sit in this space, which is a special space, and take in the loss of anyone who is jumping into the spiritual stream. And we sit here together and use our minds as a medicinal tool to embrace the love and compassion, service to others, positive. Okay, well, I walk around the sacred space with the bad camera, and I have a good camera right over there. I just forgot the connection. It doesn't matter. It's just being in a space with people that are going through loss. It's raining out. Nope, it's not gonna work. Can't let the cat out. Yeah. Oh, there's somebody here. Hello. I didn't. Sorry, I don't promote this stuff. Well, if you found this, that means you've got a spiritual stream that's connected, and you're embracing it. Oh, this is a high-tech little studio setup over here we got. Uh-oh, look at that. No furniture because the furniture is being moved. This is not my house. I live in a crappy apartment where there's no ceiling in the bathroom. It's caved in, but I don't want the landlord to fix it because I don't even want him in there. So we'll just deal with it. Okay. Let's go out and look at a spot where extreme holographic supernatural phenomena occurred. I don't even know how you open up those blinds. I apologize. That's gonna be impossible. Nope. So dealing with loss is similar to the therapy that can happen when you're dealing with hospice patients or patients in the hospice that may have dementia, and you want to help them, but you're not even sure if they recognize you. And I found out through experience in hospice that when you've accessed your spirit energy, this can be detected, and you can see it in things like crystals, and you learn that just sitting next to someone who can't really communicate and being in that space, like this space here, there's that medicinal effect. I mean, it's non-local and instantaneous. Like when I connected with Dave Wilcox, there was no words. He wouldn't use words. No comment on all those people that say they're communicating with them. It would be done symbolically, which he did. And it was absolutely beautiful. And so what I meant was sitting in a space that's, let me give it even a better example. In hospice, sometimes there'll be a circle where you'll be doing like morning activities. And I've seen people sit in this circle, okay? And there's a reason why the sacred areas in Scotland, for example, are in a circular formation. It's because there's a significance to spirit energy propagation within a circle, okay? And I would sit there in a circle with people who can't even speak and watch them all of a sudden, okay, as this energy gets access, toss beach balls around, catch them, throw them. They caught me off guard. People that normally couldn't even function. Okay, and a lot of times you have family members thinking, okay, that's how they are now. No, they need constant love and compassion, even from strangers. And all you got to do is start to propagate that spirit energy. And this is where your guides are connected to. And this is where everybody can have access to this if the problem of evil was taken care of. And so, just sitting next to a person who can't who's had brain damage or had neurological impairments due to a degenerative disease, that's where this type of connection here, there's no theatrics right now, just being in a space of like-minded people is therapeutic. And I've seen, what do we have here? All these stones have actually been in my hand while supernatural phenomenon was going on. So you can take a relic like this, and it can be like a third, someone have to, I forget art class, but I believe like if you take something to a sacred site, it becomes like a third party relic or something. Well, this works with spiritual objects as well, like this, this amethyst. You know, just looking at this has been in my hand when I flipped time, you know, and went into another dimension briefly, you know, and you can look at this and, you know, incorporate it into sitting in this space and receive a medicinal effect similar to when I would sit next to people, or still do rather, sit next to people in hospice. And something I noticed is that if you take in a particular stone that responds to a hospice patient, they can see what I can see. You know, they can see waves emitting from around this. I've been able to see this kind of stuff since I was about 15. I just didn't know how to define what I could see, you know. And when I started choosing stones like this, which is not entertainment, it's not pop culture. Like when you choose this is like choosing a pet. You go in and you talk, this is a living thing. You know, you talk to it like a pet. I can see someone just taking the last 5 seconds of what I just said and looping it, trying to make it look like I'm crazy. And you talk to this, no, you treat it like a living thing. It's very serious. And the more you acknowledge it as a living thing, it'll open up and start to give you access. So back to, let me stay on track. Hospice. Wasn't this stone, it's actually a pistachio calcite, but this one has a particular symbolic connection to this space, because my stepmother who passed on, this was her stone, right? But in back to the topic of sitting in a space where you can link up non-locally at any time to like-minded people, grid workers, light workers, ascension workers. I took in a piece of pistachio calcite and put it on the table. I was sitting next to this guy who had dementia, couldn't speak hardly. There was one other guy at the table. And a lot of times you'll notice this when you start to see synchronicities, when you're waking up, you'll start to see strange characters that just pop out of the middle of nowhere. Like it's beyond a coincidence. Like, no, it's this guy just appears, you know, it's related to your guides. And I pull out this pistachio calcite, I sit it on the table, and he goes, whoa, whoa. You know, I'm like, wait, what? He's like, those waves, man. He's like, they almost knocked me over. I'm going, you can see that? Yeah. No, he could see it. And so there's ways you can see the other dimension by polarizing towards service to others and being able to unlock things like these entities here. This amazing amethyst. I don't show off stones or anything. I just happen to have this here because it's significance to this property. But this was pulled from a cave in Brazil, you know, and you can just use them to help unlock that healing energy that you can get from a lifestyle. You know, healing comes from unwinding your spirit organ. I mean, what do you think all those symbols are in the pyramids, where you have like a headdress that has a tuning fork or a proboscis coming from the third eye, you know? And when you see something, if you see a supernatural, peaceful phenomenon, like if you're trying to contact a loved one and you say when you're looking at it, I see you with my spirit eye. I do not see you with my regular eyes, and acknowledge that you're seeing it with your spirit eye. Now, I'm just saying, a couple things here that are in relation to mystery teachings, because this is YouTube, things that are safe to say. And the theme here in this sacred space is about how you can link up instantaneously with someone across the globe in a special way. If you've created, like if you almost imagine like a morphogenic field, and you tap in to a particular spirit stream. Now, the one I'm creating here, we tap into, we use the Rudolf Steiner words of it thinks me, it works me, and it weaves me. And you say that, and you believe that it allows you access to something special, and you're there. And this is where Dave Wilcox and his teachings come in, because if you're waking up and you're starting to have feelings, like you're starting to feel strange around areas that wouldn't be, if you did a little bit of research, you would find are geometrically connected to a telluric spot. It's time to start looking for those synchronicities, because the synchronicities are also a way that your guides will test you on how much you can see, and if you're ready to psychologically go to the next step. Sometimes that's enough for people. A lot of people, that's enough, where if they just start to see those connections synchronistically, they don't need to actually see phenomena, but you will go through that stage. And I'm talking about this because these are ascension times. Like, there are people who are waking up and being called to fight evil, and this is a real deal. And so this amethyst here, I brought this in to the hospital room when my stepmother was passing away, because she responded to it. And everybody is responding to this. And like I was saying earlier about my dad receiving some temporary psychic residual, I don't know what you want to call it, spirit particle access. I talked about that earlier. If you're in a room with someone who's getting ready to transition, you can, there may be people like family members that start to see things that you can see temporarily, and that's also a great atmosphere to sort of begin to explore spirituality. If there's someone in your family that's kind of on the fence about exactly how to define spirituality, if you're sitting there in the room and you're together and you're meditating, and sometimes something like this can help. That's all I'm going to say. I'm just going to leave it at that. So when you're choosing stuff like this, if you're feeling called to having a particular living object that represents something that's living in multiple dimensions, right, at one time, when you can actually study that to a certain degree. I'm just going to say, read the Endomorphic Resonance. Rupert Sheldrake talks about that. Having these objects act as a third-party relic, and just gazing at this and knowing where this has been is where you ask for healing. It's where you ask for a medicinal effect for loss. And these are like little pathways sometimes that help you get there. It has a lot of deep meaning for me. And a good way to realize how delicate the use and practice of these types of things are would be realizing that, there's certain tribes that before they even begin using healing from a stone, they have to study it for years and years and years. And you can hurt yourself if you expect to use them as a tool. Like I almost did that one time early on, where I didn't know what I was doing. You have to wait, spend a couple years, and then receive the information akashically. You can't just go to a crystal shop, start buying stones, and try to heal people with them. And you have to wait years and just spend time with them and treat them like they're living entities. And later on, after you've been through a sort of initiation, pre-initiation, where you're seeing phenomenon, you're seeing it on a regular basis, then you can go back to the stones and Also, Betty Shine has a lot to say about that. You can find her books. In her one book, Mind to Mind, if you get a hard copy of that, that's supposed to have healing properties in itself. I was able to find a first edition. There's also a little funny story about certain books that I've ordered during my spiritual journey, where I would order a book by someone that inspired me, like Betty Shine or Rupert Sheldrake, and I'd get the book, and it would be like from, well, the Betty Shine example is like from the library down by where she lived, and then I got one from Rupert Sheldrake where it was in mint condition, or by Rupert Sheldrake. I got it and I thought it was used. And yeah, technically it was used, but it was in mint condition. And there was a reason why it was in mint condition, because I opened it up and it was signed by Rupert Sheldrake. These are synchronicities. I mean, what are the odds of that? I even emailed Sheldrake and he verified that was his signature. So it's like, it's that network. And even just like this right here, it's a space. There's no high-tech setup. I may never do this again, but you can go back and use it as a access point into this archetype that I talk about. There's, like when Steiner was writing, I don't even think he even could take in the spiritual implications of the atom bomb. So he passed away, I think, in 1925, and I argue that what he was talking about in his anthroposophical theosophical works, he talked about variations of this, like spiritual archetypes. But I think after the atom was split, there's a whole other potential that is opening up for spirit workers to jump in there, access their abilities, and make a difference. This is real. I mean, like I didn't even I had no interest in supernatural phenomenon up until things started to happen to me 4 years ago. Granted, things did happen to me about 15 years ago. I just kind of turned a blind eye to it because they were negative, because I was polarizing negative then. I was like a bar manager, I was doing drugs, and I got out of that, completely out of it. And I was having encounters with negative phenomena, let's just say that. And I ignored it. But as time went by, I completely switched over to service to others and seeing love and compassion in everyone. And these things started happening to me. And I'm sure there's people all around who are having things happen to them. Like, what do I mean by that? Well, I mean, are you seeing light phenomena? Are you, can you walk into a public place and know that someone's got cancer or something? Or have you had an NDE? Well, that's even too easy. Maybe you had an NDE and were healed, like Anita Marjani, like after you went and had a life review. Can you do complex mathematics after flatlining for 10 minutes? This is access to the light. We're here on a mission, and I just hope that there's people that are waking up to be able to do things that I could do. And I wanted to see if I could have Dave Wilcock help me, but he wasn't the person, but he's left us with some great teachings and some great meditations. And, I'm at an hour and a half. I'll get back into a little bit of this. If there's anybody actually watching, if anybody is, I appreciate that. That's what I wanted to talk about. If anybody is watching from the Dave community, I wanted to point out something here, and I may have talked about this on another video, but when chats began, or super chat donations began a couple years ago, there was not like high donations yet. And when he received certain donations, like he would get like emotional, and people who are observant can tell when people are genuinely sympathetic to certain things. And I remember I sent them like a $50. I don't have money. I'm sponsored by, that's where I get the Sizzle stuff from. I'm sponsored by certain brands, but and I sent him like $50, and he got emotional, man. Like his eyes would water. You can go back and look at it. Oh, and by the way, because I got to talk about Dave a little bit. A professional leaves up all their stuff. Like he could have taken down the one video where he thought he got the Stavati deal, which gave us the last great comedy of Wilcox, because he dressed up like the Elf King and mixed the cowboy character. I think it's the crop circle portal episode, whatever. And he left that up. And now we can look back and go, why would he leave that one episode up where he thought he was getting this deal? Well, there's a reason why. We can go back and see that if that deal went through like he thought it was, this was the Wilcock that was coming back, and he was in full form. He did the cigarettes, bacon, and he did the Elf King about the portal opening up in the bathroom. He was on point, and he was never the same after that. And you know, it's bittersweet because he's left all these things up, or hopefully it'll stay. What I meant was he left them up even when he was having his psychological, the last handful of shows, you know. And that's professional, you know, leaving all that stuff up, exposing yourself like that, even when you had that letdown. And so not just that donation that I sent or early on in the show where he looked like he was sympathetic, it was any time after that for almost a year, almost 2 years, he would just almost tear up, which is so grateful for that stuff. And you can see it, you know. And okay, yeah. And another thing I wanted to say is his fans in that spiritual space. This is the pestle for the singing bowl. I'm just holding it. His fans knew something was going on, because after I started sending him those gifts, okay, he started showing what he was receiving. Then a bunch of people started sending him stuff. Even somebody who sent him a giant sword, looked like it was like $5,000, a big Michael sword. I got it. It was a Michael sword. And he said he started to receive so many gifts that it was like overwhelming, you know. And just think about that. You know, it's like everybody started to know something was going on, started showering him with gifts. The donations got bigger. Then we later found out he was financially destroyed. People knew, you know, and I was sending out letters because my sister lived an hour away, desperately trying to well, let's not go there. I'm not gonna get sad. So as we breathe in the positive healing energy of the space. We take it in, nice deep breath, and we either breathe out in a full breath or 2 parts. You blow out any sadness or any bad things that have happened to you during the day, and know that when you sit in a healing space, which is linked up with all those wonderful streams, for example, that like the Templar monks were working on. Again, the Templar logo is a light photon. That's because there were monks digging tunnels underneath all the Templar sites in Portugal, working on light. They were light workers underneath the radar of the Inquisition. That's why their emblem is a light photon, because they went over to another dimension during their initiation where they saw information that was way beyond their time. And they saw what a light photon looked like underneath the microscopic enhancement. And we jump into that stream where people risk their lives hiding from the Inquisition to hold together a spiritual stream, a special spiritual stream. Okay, I might jump back on a little while because I want to honor the space maybe tomorrow. And I think there should be something where like someone just does a regular live stream where the people from Dave's community can talk a little bit. And maybe I can somehow promote something like this just to have a space. I don't make any money off of anything like this. But Raymond Moody is going to be doing this Zoom chat, which is a big deal. And I might do something after that because I'm spending a lot of time here in the next 2 nights honoring this space. And, maybe something will come through later on back there. Again, through this window, one of the most amazing supernatural phenomenon I've ever seen involved a violet ray orb 6 feet off the ground. And this was a phenomenon that appeared to a person who was learning to be a service to others light worker, and it was going through a modern form of initiation. Now, this right there, at 6 feet off the ground, and I asked Dave, I never promote anything, but it's not hard to find my X page under the same name. I did make a little clip of Dave responding to what that was, okay? And he says, if you're seeing a light phenomenon right after someone passes, I'm paraphrasing. I can look at it right now. It's on. Basically, that is the loved one or whoever just passed. Now, I told you on the 21st, I talked about in one of my other videos that I had known what happened to Dave. And at 4 a.m. on the 21st, I saw a light phenomenon, which wasn't violet, but it was very similar to that one that happened out there in the ground. Now, this one was up in the sky, which is a more common way that phenomenon appears. I think it's easier on their side or something to appear that way. I don't know. And so this phenomenon came out, and then a bunch of other phenomenon came out. And then I found out later on that Dave passed away. And then you just know, because Dave wouldn't want a literal explanation because he knows how many people are out there that are going to be saying things related to conspiracy and saying he was abducted by aliens and people, all that kind of stuff. But he did pass on, and he appeared in this same type of geometric light phenomenon shape that happened right out there. And he appeared right after what someone passed, just like he said on his video that happened back there. It was just a little higher in the sky and it was a different color. Everybody's got a color. Dave's color was gold. My stepmother's was violet. And then I saw him 4 other times in a particular hotspot location, and all these other characters are with him. All these other spiritual geometric shapes, and then there's these 2 that are right next to each other, which is something I've only seen when I was asking about Dave, or what I later found out was a Dave appearance right after he killed himself. So, yeah, that just a little bit about light phenomenon and sacred spots. And I'll end it with this. If anybody tuned in, looks like someone was over there. I appreciate whoever Philip White was, 4508. Thank you, sir. I do feel bad that I couldn't promote this to get more people in here, but you guys have an excellent evening, and I may come back on after Raymond Moody's Zoom call. This is a big deal. I got to think of the question I'm going to ask him and meditate on that. Thank you.